Too many leaders and professionals operate under a comfortable, dangerous assumption that cybersecurity is a technical silo completely separate from brand identity. They treat security solely as an IT problem or a formality, forgetting that human behavior, organizational culture, and internal design of workflows dictate the strength of your perimeter just as much as the technology itself. Welcome back to Built to Sway. I'm Danny Hewling, the low-key visionary. Today, we're forensically unpacking the cybersecurity of brand, sealing your authority leaks. We're moving past the software firewalls to look at the human and architectural vulnerabilities that are silently bleeding your brand equity. Let's look at the baseline metrics. Your brand consists of two main variables, your infrastructure and your people. From an infrastructure perspective, there are the silent brand assets. This includes all the technology and connection points needed to establish and enforce your authority. Each of these has its own vulnerabilities, not limited to script injections, third-party supply chains, or malware and ransomware infections. Then you have your visible brand assets, which include your visual branding, messaging, perspective, etc. These are front-facing and susceptible to replication, compromise, or use in phishing scams, any of which can harm your brand's reputation and overall brand equity. And now add in the continued rise of AI into the mix. AI is not only increasing the speed at which threat actors are able to move, it is also improving the efficacy of many attacks, making people more susceptible to them. According to the Verizon 2025 Data Breach Investigation Report, 60% of all data breaches involved a distinct human element. We aren't just talking about software bugs, we're talking about human error and systemic manipulation. Some of this includes weak and stolen credentials in social engineering. Social engineering attacks manipulate people into divulging confidential information. Unlike technical breaches, social engineering relies on deception and trust to succeed, making it one of the most dangerous methods. AI-enhanced attacks are particularly dangerous because they create highly personalized, contextually relevant messages that bypass traditional security awareness training with startling effectiveness. But let's look at how we actively feed these cybercriminals. Think about how your brand handles its assets daily. Are your teams texting administrative passwords to freelance designers? To make sharing easier, are your master Google Drives containing corporate assets that anyone with a link can access? Every time you choose convenience over protocol in your workflows, you aren't just being agile. You are handing a threat actor the exact ingredients they need to impersonate your leadership and compromise your perimeter. You might be confused wondering, Dana, you are a brand architect at Creative. You spent over a decade leading BID, building elite visual identities and market positioning for brilliant founders. Why are you talking about threat actors, supply chain risks, and social engineering? To which I share, because a beautifully designed showroom means absolutely nothing if the back door to the facility is completely unlocked. Over the last 12 years, I've realized that you cannot scale an undeniable brand on top of a fragile foundation. On more than one occasion, I've managed situations where a client's perimeter was compromised as a result of injection attacks, crippling their organization and reputation. It's all fun and games until your emails are blocked by one of your top donor servers because they flagged your compromised domain. And yes, these situations could have been way worse, but they were also entirely preventable. Instead, because of a simple vulnerability, they lost time, they lost money, and worst of all, they lost trust. As we build flagships, I've long had a fascination for securing perimeters. This led me to obtain my formal certification in cybersecurity in 2024. With this came the drive to move from keeping security in mind to fully incorporating it into how I work. BID is the first firm to explicitly bridge the gap between cybersecurity and brand architecture for mid market enterprises. And me, I'm one of the few, if not the only, cyber certified chief brand officer operating in this space. I've talked a bit about cybersecurity from an enterprise standpoint, but that does not let non founder low key visionaries off the hook. You too need to make sure your perimeter is secure. Not being the owner doesn't mean you get to look the other way. Gone are the days where having a fraudulent credit card charge was your biggest concern. A hacked social account seems minor on the surface, but poor personal security posture can compromise your reputation and make it easier for attackers to use your voice or likeness in phishing campaigns. More than 90% of successful cyber attacks start with a phishing email that tricks individuals into revealing passwords or sensitive data. Since 2023, incidents targeting corporate executives have doubled, marked by a massive 225% surge in attacks against non CEO senior leaders. Meanwhile, the finance and technology sectors remain the most heavily targeted, representing a 34% majority of these security incidents. When you look at the macro landscape, the numbers are staggering. We aren't just talking about a tech issue. We're talking about a multi-billion-dollar extraction of value from the global economy. But I don't look at these metrics and see lost profit. I see a massive systemic tax on humanity. Every breach represents a team thrown into chaos, a founder losing their peace, and an enterprise forced to divert its energy away from building and into survival. But let's bring the perimeter closer to home. You might think your boutique consultancy or your private executive footprint is too small to notice. The data tells a completely different story. Small and medium-sized enterprises are the targets of more than 40% of all cyber attacks. Furthermore, personnel at smaller companies encounter roughly 350% more social engineering threats, such as phishing, compared to employees at larger corporations. In the age of AI, hackers don't just sit at keyboards targeting companies by name. They deploy automated scripts to scan the entire internet for unsecured gates. Your small perimeter isn't invisible, it's simply unhardened. When building out brand infrastructure, options have historically been siloed, where you can work with an agency that can build out a beautiful aesthetic, or a traditional security firm that builds hardened sandboxes. If you try to patch them together, your organization ends up trapped in a constant tug of war between form and function. Through clinical artistry, we eliminate that compromise. The beauty in what I bring to the table is that through my clinical artistry framework, I understand the unique nuances of both and intentionally build to bring forth a security aligned backend to pair with a remarkably creative yet non-porous brand identity on the front end. Was I sharing all this just to fearmonger? Absolutely not. The numbers are staggering, yes. But with a hardened perimeter and efficient security practices, businesses and people have a viable defense. If you recall the tuned mass damper score we discussed in the palace, it's only unbalanced if you do nothing. I wholeheartedly believe that reducing the permeability of your brand infrastructure is only as expensive as or as effective as you intend it to be. Two low-key tasks you can do as a leader or professional today are: one, audit your access. That is, what software people have access to what accounts exactly, and do they still need it? And two, audit your visible context. Review your recent public updates, website copy, or organizational announcements through the eyes of a threat actor. What hyper-specific personal or operational details are you leaving out in the open that an AI could scrape to map your habits and engineer a flawless, believable phishing attack against your team or your clients? At the end of the day, a firewall cannot protect a brand that is fundamentally uninsulated from the inside out. Your security posture is only as resilient as the human workflows driving it. True enterprise maturity means recognizing that your operational behavior is your brand protection. If you're ready to identify the hidden structural debt and authority leaks inside your organization, step through our perimeter at builttosway.com to request an alignment assessment. That's builttosway.com. Until next time, harden the base. Stay high key.